Welcome to a special episode of Raising the Wild Ones podcast here. I'm Dustin, we're going to have Caleb, and our guest this week is going to be Ron Morehead, right? And he is the guy who recorded the Sierra Sounds, and if you want to know more about that, then jump into our podcast, and you can figure it out as you go, right? I'm just going to give you a little hint. It's got to do with Bigfoot, right? But it's pretty cool stuff. It's really awesome, and it's a really cool story. Now, towards the end of this episode, we start discussing theology, right? And we get into some theology topics and stuff like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that Ron's views aren't necessarily me and Caleb's views, but we start talking about this stuff. But what's really cool is as we talk about these things, we have an idea to do a second episode with Ron where we have a whole bunch of discussions about his theology. So as you guys listen to this episode, if you encounter something that you think, man, that sounds a little funky, or you're just not sure about, tune in next week as we discuss all of these things with Ron, and we sit down and start talking to Ron about his theology, which is some really cool stuff, and we have a really awesome conversation that's coming out next week. But in the meantime, sit down, listen to this cool story about Bigfoot with Ron Morehead and the Sierra Sounds. It's a good one, and I know you guys are going to like it.
Raising the Wild Ones podcast.
Well, Caleb, do you have a dad joke for us then?
No.
Do you want to? No, Caleb.
I had some pulled up, but I'm not on them anymore.
I had a Bigfoot dad joke. If you want to hear my lame Bigfoot dad joke,
sure. I like jokes.
Here we go. Why couldn't? Oh wait. Why did Bigfoot get fired from the zoo?
I don't know.
Because nobody could find his exhibit.
Oh.
Okay, here's the dad.
That was my lame dad joke right there.
Here's you a lame dad joke. Bigfoot lame. Yeah. How does Bigfoot tell time? He got a Sasquatch.
Oh, like a watch.
Yeah,
Sasquatch.
That's a lame dad joke for you.
That one was pretty lame. There,
yeah.
Well, kind of to start us off here, I just want to say we've got Ron Morehead is here with us, and I was kind of reading on his stuff. He's an author, a renowned researcher, and an experiencer, producer of the Sierra Sounds. Right, one of his books that he's got out is Bigfoot Unveiled, is by Ron Morehead. Some cool stuff in there, and so we thought it'd be really neat to kind of bring him on and then just have him talk about the Sierra Sounds and all that kind of fun stuff. If you haven't heard them, there's multiple spots where you can go hear them, like on his website. Number one, you can. I think they're at the bottom of his website down there. But they're just some really cool sounds that he captured in, what was it, 19? When did you do the Sierra Sounds, my friend?
We started in 1971 and recorded through
71. 1976.
Yeah, well, we was recording up there for 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
So starting kind of back there and kind of recording these different sounds and stuff like that. And so if you want to go ahead, my friend, would you mind like telling us kind of the story and how you got to the point of telling the sounds and all that kind of fun stuff?
I would love to. Well, it started for me in 1971. I was 29 years old then, so I'm an old dude now. But I invited into the camp, the hunting camp, which is about 8 miles into the wilderness in the Sierra Nevada mountains of California. One of the guys who was the original hunter up there had got scared off and didn't want to go back by himself. The wives were worried. He ran out the next morning after he heard these sounds and came back and said, what the brothers said, the Johnson brothers, which are original guys from 1958 up there, they've been going up there for a long time. There's a monster up there of some kind, and he was a very religious person, didn't know where to put this in his paradigm. Giants aren't supposed to exist, and these things were huge and very scary sounding. So the wife said, well, you got to go back and see if they're okay. Nobody knew what they was dealing with because they weren't looking for Bigfoot up there. They were just hunters. Like I say, it's 8 miles back there, and it's about 8,400 feet in elevation.
So they were seeing them.
Well, they didn't see him; they heard him, and they were making these vocalization sounds back and forth and fighting either fighting amongst themselves over who's going to get these white guys out here or what. I don't know. They don't know. Enough to jar them a little bit, So anyway, let me get this back in my ear here better. There. they didn't come out where they're supposed to. So the wife said, "You got to go back, Donald, and you got to find out what's going on." He said, "I'm not going back." Mom said, "I was friends with them all." So, but I wasn't a hunter, so I wasn't into the camp at that time. And Donald said, "I'll go back, but somebody's got to go back with me." So he asked me, and I went back with him. We walked in. The guys were okay. They just hang out an extra day, just have an activity with these things. So anyway, that got me into the camp, and that got me part of the group. I started hunting after that with them and became part of it all. We started witnessing these beings coming around our camp, and I say witnessing, we weren't seeing them, we were just hearing them. And of course, the old saying goes, if you don't see what made the sound, you don't know what made the sound. So,
Hmm.
but we was always trying to see them, always trying to get a picture or something, because what they were arguing about, we didn't know, but they were definitely giving us some kind of a displaying of anger or something out there, chest beating, just kind of aggressive sounds, enough to scare you. And anyway, it started me on my track of trying to find out what's doing this. Is we didn't shoot at them. We're all heavily armed, by the way, hunting camp, so we never went up there unarmed, and that didn't seem to bother them. But we never shot at them, never offered to, and we wasn't going to unless they came in the shelter after us. So
What
we,
what were y'all primarily hunting? We talk about hunting a lot too. We're rednecks
yeah,
from Texas, so what were y'all
okay,
hunting when y'all went up there?
uh, deer,
Deer?
deer, yeah, and let me turn this down. I got it up too loud now. uh,
So
uh,
when y'all were hunting, I guess one question I had was, number one, I guess were you hearing most of the sounds, at least this first time, in the daylight, in the dark? And also, were you noticing a change in the wildlife around you, as far as, okay, we're seeing deer in this area now, we're not seeing deer because of these wild vocalizations, or was it something that the wildlife seemed used to?
no, the animals up there didn't seem to be well. First of all, in camp, when they did come to our camp, it was usually evening time, right after dusk, after we went inside the shelter, and we would hunt during the day and looking for signs or looking for deer, or whatever, and we'd always get deer. And we go out with the mules and pick up the deer and haul them back to camp and hang them up and skin them the next day or whatever. So they were curious about that, and they would come around the camp at night, and we found tracks underneath the deer after we hung them, which was on a cable behind our shelter. And the horses we took in, the mules, didn't seem to be bothered by these things, like you would think.
Hmm.
Uh, so the deer were still around. I mean, as far as hunting goes, bears, a lot of bear up there, so we've seen a lot of bear too. But that's what what it was like around camp. Very very sober camp. We weren't drinking or anything like that. It was just serious camp. These
Yeah.
guys, Johnson Brothers, been hunting up there, like I say, since 1958. So when these things started coming in around in 1971, I say earlier in the year, they went up there just to check the camp out because the snow load up there is pretty heavy in the wintertime, and you don't usually get in until April or May of spring. And so they'd gone up there, and this happened to them, and they came out and got out and told the other guys that were part of the hunting group, and all five went back up there, and then that's when they didn't come out, except for the one that came out. He never would go back. He just frightened him too much. But when you see their tracks, they're huge tracks, they're five-toed tracks, and hear their sounds, it kind of wakes you up a little bit, jerks the stock out of you. You just don't know what to think about it. And for a long time, we didn't know what to think. There's some kind of an ape out there that we don't understand, just, and what are they doing? And they want is what they want. They were taking the food that we'd leave out on the stove. It was food that we were eating that was left over. And you'd think a bear would be after that. But these things came in right after we got inside the shelter and would mess with our food and make their sounds too. They jump out of the shelter's door right quick, which these pictures are on my website, pictures of the shelter. And you'd think you could see one, but rarely did you even get a glimpse. And I only did once that I know of, and that was 1974 when we were actually outside and they started interacting with us. And that was quite a unique night for me. And that prompted my first book, which is called Voices in the Wilderness, which they're doing a documentary on that right now as we speak, and it should be out
Oh,
after Christmas
cool.
year, about an hour long. and David Paulides, who does a Missing 401 series. You know who that
Yeah.
is? Yeah, he's also got a film coming out. I think November. He's releasing a book too, another book. And I took him up there in 2018. Him and his filmer. They wanted to interview him around the shelter because it is a unique story. And I had no idea 50 years ago when it started that I would be doing what I'm doing now. You know, I just
Yeah.
got back from
Mm-hmm.
Louisiana for a conference there, and 2 weeks before that I was in Pennsylvania, and I I'm in Washington right now. And I'm going, I just got a lot going on, but
Mm-hmm.
getting a little tired of that flying around, to be honest with you. But I I knew these guys personally, and they're serious people. We're all businessmen. And I had an airplane then, and I used to fly them over the area in the wintertime just to see if we could find trackways or see maybe a migration path or something like that. So it's been quite an adventure for me, and I've been around the world. Really, I've been in South America a couple of times, looking at in Peru and Bolivia, and looking at the intermediate structures down there. And I've been into. I had dinner with a senator of Moscow,
Wow.
along with
Oh
the late
man.
Dr. Jeffrey Meldrum, who just passed away. And
Yeah.
it was a shame. I knew the man well. We roomed together over there and went into Siberia together with
Mm.
also John Benernagel. And I've been into Nepal, Peter Byrne, and spent a month over there. So I've been around researching this for a long time. So I've written three books actually. You mentioned Bigfoot Unveiled. That's my most recent one. But Quantum Bigfoot is the second one, and Voices in the Wilderness was the first one.
Mm.
And Voices in the Wilderness, it comes with a download of sounds. It's my chronicle really of doing this for 40 some odd years then. But I got to download the sound, so when I get to context of sounds, you can actually hear the sound. And if you download the link that I got in there. And then I wrote Quantum Bigfoot because there's other things happened up at the camp besides just the Bigfoot going on. We had some enigmatic things happen that just wasn't answerable by classical science. And Al Berry, the reporter we took in 1972, who thought we were probably pulling his leg, but he asked if he could go in and check it out. And that was in the results of Warren Johnson, the leader of our group. He wrote Ivan Sanderson a 23-page letter. Ivan Sanderson thought it was probably somebody pulling his leg, and then he sent it to Peter Byrne, who was in Oregon at the time, and Peter thought the same thing. He called up Al Berry, who was in Redding, California, and I didn't know all this, that they thought it was a hoax until I read the correspondence later on. But Al Berry was up there trying to find out who could be doing this and how could they be doing it without leaving more sign or being seen more often. And just been quite a life for me, really. I've been all over the world
Yeah.
chasing this thing and speaking at these conferences now, and so that's what I do now. And it's just where it's taken me in the quantum physics. So it's because it's the things that were happening, the lights we were seeing, and I saw a UFO up there one time, big blue ball slowly coming down from the sky. The filmer that David Paulides took up there, he reenacted a bolt of light. I say bolt, it sounds like it's going faster. It was slowly moving through the trees just by my tent. And we've all seen it. I mean, both of us seen it. I was up there with somebody else, and he reenacted that very well in the Missing 401, The Hunted. So
Yeah.
I want to see that. That was in 2016 when that happened. When I took him up there, it was 2018. So that's the last time I was there, really. Prior to that, when it was all this stuff was going on, this close-up interaction, which we recorded and had verified by Al Berry, thanks to Al Berry, who was the investigative reporter, he ended up finding a professor that would check the recordings out to make sure they wouldn't phone it up or nothing's wrong, speed it up, slow down, no 60-second hum. He studied him for a year. He's a professor of electrical engineering at the University of Wyoming. And he took them unbiasedly because, most academia don't want to touch this subject, but he did.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did. And he came out with a report and wrote it in a book, Man Like Monsters on Trial, gave a paper on it. And he's written a lot of papers. He's a really high-tech guy. And anyway, it wasn't until 2008, I think, when a cryptolinguist trained by the Navy as a cryptolinguist, which is a two-time graduate of the Foreign Language Institute in Monterey, 4 foreign languages. And he was finished career in the Navy to listen to sounds, unknown sounds, listen to codes, unknown codes, see if he could translate them, see if there's any maliciousness in it or anything that's a danger to the government. And he come out and interviewed me and Alberry both, get the context of it all, asked if he could study them. Well, he did. And he comes back and says these things have a language by the human definition of language, which is very, very important. I had no idea how important that was at the time. We thought they were chattering amongst themselves, similar like Albert Ostman said in his book to John Green, A Man Like Monsters on Trial. He said they were chattering amongst themselves when he was held captive for 6 days. And but that's what they're doing. They're chattering very rapidly. Scott Nelson, he's a cryptolinguist. He says they have a language by the human definition of language, which means a cognitive sentence, a sapient sentence, like I'm talking now, which has words. Everything communicates. Let's face it, everything does. Dolphins, frogs, everything communicates. Whales, everything does. I mean, all fish, when they spool together, they're not talking to each other. They communicate entangle-wise. And it's a feature that animals have that we have too, but we have not evolved into it enough yet, I guess. Yeah. I'll just keep going if you want me to, or
well, so and one thing about the sounds, and that's kind of what drew me to the story is, you listen to the sounds and it's haunting. I remember, and when you're out in the wild, you hear some crazy noises. For instance, like I remember one time when I was younger, I went bow hunting for deer, and I was in a stand by myself, and it was like one of the first times I was hunting by myself, and I all of a sudden this bobcat just starts going crazy. This bobcat starts yelling basically, and you hear a sound like that, and you're like, man, this is wild, but you know what it is, what's out there, but when you listen to these sounds, it's like, man, this is it's almost like a demonic type sound. Like it's a crazy sound. And when you listen to it, like you said, it almost sounds like whatever this is talking back and forth
sentences
to each other
and stuff.
It's wild. So I guess one question I did have is how did y'all go about getting these recordings? Because like they're if you listen to them, and I don't know, maybe we could somehow get the sounds on here. I don't know if that's possible or not, but like how did you go about recording the sounds? And also, like, the first few times y'all heard these, and you talked about your structure a little bit. If you go to his website and see the structure, I mean, it's a nice structure. It's not like a just a little tent. I mean, what did y'all build that big, like that type of a structure because of this? I guess is my first question. So it was something that was already there, or y'all
the Johnson brothers put it up. Like I said, they've been going up there since 1958.
Yes, yeah.
So it was there when I started going up in 71, and it was a good little place to hide.
Yeah.
Close the door.
So I guess my next question was, like, how did y'all record, and when y'all were recording, was it like y'all were going and setting the tape recorder out, then running back to the shed and staying in the shed and hiding, or were you like, what was going on there?
Well, let me explain that. We put our microphones through the cracks in the shelter's wall. They were just deadfall, and then we lay down our sleeping bags and had our tape recorders in our hand. Cassette recorders is all we had back then, and that's what we used. And Alberry, who got some real good clear sounds one night, about 40 feet up above the shelter, he remoted his mic up there and hooked it to a little tree, then went inside the shelter. Because when you're outside, they generally didn't come around, and at least we didn't see them. They're very stealthy. But I want to mention one thing, that when Dr. Curlin, Professor Curlin, electrical engineer, studied these for a year, he put a graph in a report he wrote, and that graph showed where they were inside, outside, below, and above the average human range. It represented an animal over 8 foot tall. One section of the recordings did, and so that's unique. So these have been studied over and over again by multiple professionals, and nobody can debunk them. There's no 60-second hum in them. There's no manipulating the sounds. There's no fun making it all. They're just what they are. And so that's what's kept the credibility there. But you got Dr. Curlin's report saying all that. Then you got the cryptolinguists saying they have a language. Then you get Dr. Philip Lieberman at Brown University, who says only humans have that. Well, what does that do for you? Puts those three dots together. There's got to be a human component to the ones we were dealing with up
Something.
there. And I'll say that the ones we were dealing with because they're not all the same in my opinion. So that's how we record them. And yeah, I see your finger
Well,
coming up.
well,
Must be a
one of
question.
the things
Is that or
is
is that or
That's,
you're mad at
yeah.
me? One of the
Yeah.
that no. That's my thinking. That's my
okay,
thinking thought.
thinking
No.
finger. Okay.
But one of the things I thought about is you mentioned earlier that you guys were deer hunting and then you would take them and you'd hang them outside your shelter. But when they would come in, they would eat the food that was left out for them, not the deer. I mean,
Right.
we had like his Caleb was talking about like weird stuff. As growing up, so I grew up on a farm and we had sheep and stuff, and well, I didn't grow up on the. We had a farm that had sheep. My great granddad did, but there was a time in there where we thought maybe a mountain lion was coming in and getting our sheep, and it was like they preferred the meat, of the animal. And so did the did the creatures ever go after the deer that was hanging, or did they always
Uh,
go after like just the food? And that I don't know. At least to me, that's interesting as well.
yeah.
That
Well,
they preferred
they
this
could just
over the hanging deer.
well if they
Yeah.
just wanted to get deer, they'd probably just go out and get one. There's a lot of
Yeah.
them up there. So they didn't mess with ours. I don't know if that was out of respect or what, because we hunted and we brought them in and skinned them and all that, to let them hang out. The food we left out, sometimes, most of the times they took it. Sometimes they didn't. So I'm not sure. I think they probably enjoyed what we were eating too, or wanted to see what we're eating. I'm not sure what, but one time we left out some meat that we'd hauled up there in the summertime when it wasn't hunting season, and we left it up there. And the next time we went up, the meat was a little tainted, so we didn't eat it. We buried it in a pile of dirt, and the next morning after these things that came in that night, they had dug up that meat and left a big handprint. I got a picture of that, and
Oh
huge.
man.
And but they dug it up, and also that same night we left the jar off some hot peppers accidentally, and the peppers were all gone, and they didn't eat any
Ooh.
more. They didn't come back again that whole week when we were up there.
Gonna say no
Don't
So
like
matter.
the
You got a lot of
jalapeno
wild sounds
peppers.
that night.
I don't think they thought too much of that. Yeah.
Oh
That's
man.
what y'all should have done when you were going hunting. Just set some peppers out, let them eat that, and be gone for a few days, and then you can get
We
some sleep.
Well,
get some sleep.
we were excited about them coming around. We didn't know what we're dealing with, but we
Yeah.
thought, well, they're not eating us yet. They haven't carried us away in a sleeping bag. We're getting okay with it. We're not going to shoot at them unless they tear after us or something. So we didn't leave bad stuff out for them anymore after that because obviously they didn't like the tainted meat. They thought it was an insult. I guess
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know what it was, but they never took our deer, even though I have some prints underneath our deer one time. We was out there eating at the stove site and thought we'd go back and check out because we noticed they'd been checking out our deer before, and we raked out the area underneath our deer. And after we got through eating, we thought, well, before we go in the shelter, we'll go back and check out the deer. Went back there, and there was these three tracks under there. So whatever was there was looking at the deer and looking over the shelter, probably at us, because they could, as tall as they were, they could see over at us at the shelter. It was
Yeah.
dark, and where we were at the stove site, which is just the opposite side of the deer. Anyway,
Oh
there's a
man.
lot of interesting things happen up there,
Yeah.
strange things, and one strange thing is we thought our barrels that we'd hauled in there on mules were all being taken apart and thrown around, scattered, everything being scattered. And after the commotion was over, we went out there and looked, and nothing changed. Well,
Ooh.
where do you put that? Where do you put that? And
Yeah.
where do you put any of this stuff that turns out to be not classical? It's not what you'd expect. And so you kind of put it up on the shelf because you can't explain it. Al Berry, the reporter we took in, who fostered the sounds, like I say, he said, whatever you do, stay with science. He had a master's degree in science. He had two degrees, actually. One a master's in science. And he says, don't talk about the unusual stuff because other unusual things will happen up there. You hear this clicking noise sometimes. You can't figure it out. And all of a sudden, the clicking noise is inside the shelter. Uh, you hear this big humming sound in the daytime up there, and you can't see where the source of it, like a big tuning fork would sound. So there's other things that went on up there. One time, Warren and I stepped out of our shelter, and one of these things was making his noises behind us. We thought this big tree up there that we was going to walk up there and see him run off, bright moonlit night and all that stuff. So we both of us step out of the shelter, start walking up there towards that tree, probably 10, 15 feet apart. And all of a sudden we just got froze just before we got to the tree. Now that's strange because I don't even know how to explain that other than you couldn't go forward anymore. It's like a force field or something in Star Trek. I don't know. But anyway, I mentioned that to a scientist later on who was involved with us there, and he said, "Well, we can't talk with your fear." I said, "Well, we weren't afraid then. We knew they hadn't eaten us yet. They hadn't hurt us anyway. So we just wanted to see one. We knew one had to be behind this huge tree. Well, we couldn't get to the tree, and we could both go backward, but we couldn't go any forward anymore." And he said, "Well, it might be infrasound or it could be pheromones." So at the time, I thought, well, it has to be infrasound then because that affects humans. And we don't know the scope or the limit of their vocal ability. We just know it's very, very unique and very much beyond all what we can do as humans. So I stuck with pheromones, thinking, and I still do. I think it was probably pheromones that stopped us. No, excuse me, infrasound. Pheromones only work within the same species. However, now I know there's a human component to these things, at least for the ones we're dealing with up there. It could have been pheromones, but I don't think so. I think it was infrasound because it happened to me one other time out in the forest. Yeah, it happened to me.
Like I just raised my hand. No.
Yeah.
Did y'all
What's that finger there?
Yeah.
I'll just put
Is
my
this
hand
video? Is this video and sound or just video?
It is video and sound, but for the most
Yeah.
part, it is just sound. The video comes a lot later when I get to editing it.
Okay.
But when y'all were with the incident with the tree where you felt like you couldn't go forward and you thought you knew one was behind the tree, were y'all tracking him like
No.
just like traditional tracking, or were y'all just out walking around and then
No, we were inside the shelter.
we're
We were
inside the
inside the
shelter?
shelter when
And
he
you
was
heard,
making the sounds. So we stepped out of the shelter right quick, thinking we were going to see him run away from behind that
Oh,
tree.
yeah.
And we both just started walking up towards that tree, which is maybe 30, 40 feet away. And we both just got stopped before we got to the tree. And that's how it happened. Again, that happened to me one other time out in the woods when I was by myself walking through there. I wasn't thinking about anything particular. And all of a sudden, you just get that, you can't go. I mean, I just froze right there. And I'm looking around and say, what could be doing that? What's going on here? I didn't see anything, no source of anything. And it just paralyzed me. And all of a sudden it went away just about as fast as it came. So you think, well, what's going on there? So that got me into quantum science. All this stuff did. And I've been chasing that down now and I think it answers a lot of questions because I found out that, I think maybe, well, you guys in the flesh and blood only probably thinking that's all they are. Am I right or wrong?
Well,
thinking they're flesh and blood. Is that
Flesh and blood only?
I kind of
so?
go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Dustin.
Let me.
Me?
Can I go from here?
Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
I will.
Sure.
Yeah.
They are flesh and blood, but not only.
Okay.
We are more than just flesh and blood. There's more to us. There's our cognizance, our telepathy, our feelings, our emotions, our stuff that flesh and blood don't handle. It's who we are inside. There's two parts to us. There's the ethereal part, which is your spiritual part, but there's also the embodiment, the biological part. And that's what I write about in my books is the difference between those. Because if you understand how things work throughout the universe, I mean, not just from the micro world, but from the macro world too. According to Dr. Christopher Breyer at West Texas A&M, everything from the atom all the way through the cosmos works with the laws of quantum physics. So we live in a third density environment. So everything we see is made of what you can see, feel, touch, and hear, and all that stuff. That's Newtonian physics from 1687. Get into quantum physics, and that's only 100 years old, a little over 100 years old. Max Planck got the Nobel Prize for that in 1918. But according to the astronaut, one of the scientists that went into space, he says it takes classical science and quantum sciences together to have clear perception. So we have to understand there's more going on than what we see with our eyes. That's what we're saying. That's what I'm saying. There's more going on than what you see with your eyes. And so anyway, that really gets deep into how things happen, and it's not beyond anybody's comprehension. I mean, anybody can understand it. I say your head's got to be like a parachute. If it isn't open, it's not going to work very well.
So one,
Not
one question I've always had is, and that may be part of the answer to it is, like, let's say if you would have had, which I know they didn't have these in the, like at the time, but like a trail camera, could you have taken a trail camera and put it out? And do you think it would have gotten a picture if it was facing one of these, an area where they would have passed by?
good question. We didn't take a trail camera up there. We didn't.
Which yes, and they wouldn't have had those at the time. I
We didn't
believe
have
maybe they
those.
did.
No, but
Yeah.
it wasn't too long after that they had trail cameras to catch the movement or something. And later on, one of the guys, one of the Johnson's heirs, took a trail camera up there and put it on a tree. I found it. I didn't know who put it there, so I took it down and looked at it, and nothing on it except a blank spot for about 3 months through the center winter when I think the snow probably got over it or something.
Yeah.
But I took it down and gave it to my friend down there and said, I don't know who this belongs to, but anyway, Warren Johnson's son, one of his youngest son, David, which is a friend of mine. I know him well. He's going to be in the documentary coming up too. He put it up, and he thought somebody took it down to cheat him or something. But
Yeah.
I told him, I don't like people spying on me while I'm up there. But we saw that, so I took it down. But now trail cams are what a lot of people use nowadays, trying to capture a picture. But more and more people are seeing these things, but a lot of people don't have trail cams or tape recorders that they're carrying around. So,
And
I've had
typically, like it almost seems like when people are trying to get a trail cam picture of something like this, they can't.
I think they
They
can
don't.
sense the battery energy in the batteries. That's
Okay,
what I think, or the infrared, one or the other. So that's what I think. And
I mean, that's a really I kind of that's a neat
yeah.
idea to
Well, I
they
know
can
here
feel
in
the
the
battery energy and yeah.
the Olympic project here on the Olympics in Washington. I used to be part of that group and still am, I think. I just got back here from North Carolina, so I haven't checked in with them. But they do a lot of trail camera work, hoping they'll capture something. They've been doing that for years. They never capture a Bigfoot, though. They just never have captured one on tape. Mountain lions, bear, all kinds of the deer, but never a Bigfoot. And yet that's what a lot of people are seeing in the Olympics. So they want to do that. But again, I think these things can sense the trail cam. It's like somebody hanging a picture in your living room, you're not knowing it, probably. I
They
think.
Yeah.
can see it.
Yeah.
Well, and kind of one of the things I think about a lot here is so here in Central Texas, we kind of like the goat man, I guess is the thing here. I've talked to a guy, Dr. Judd Burton, and he's written a book about Central Texas and stuff and the experiences. And I remember even growing up deer hunting as a kid, like hearing stories of the goat man and stuff like that. But the thing is, kind of on that side of it, it was almost kind of viewed as like a demonic type of an entity, and so it's like you kind of start talking about like the spiritual side of things. It's just interesting when you start thinking about those sorts of things, even with this instance where you can't go forward for the tree and all that kind of fun stuff too. So, you know,
Did you say Dr. Burton?
Dr. Judd Burton, yeah.
Yeah, I was in South America with him.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, he
Okay.
went down there to help us weigh those in elongated skulls and do some work on those. Uh, yeah, but they're not all the same. I got to tell you that because you get really into research, and I encourage anybody to research and don't just believe what I'm saying, but if you just start researching, because I was raised religiously, biblical, all that stuff, but now we're all spiritual, like it or not. You have that inside of you, whether you know it or not. We're all spiritual beings walking around a body. The body's going to die. It does with everybody, right? But something else inside of you doesn't die. It goes on. And that's, if you're religious, you might call that heaven. Or if you're not so lucky, you might call it something else. Ha! Anyway, uh, you get into really back into it. But like I say, I was raised biblically, and I started getting into, the Bible doesn't answer some of those questions because what you have to get into is researching how the Bible's been, I don't like to say that word corrupted, but it's been altered by the paradigm on people's shoulders by the different translations that gone through, depending on what Roman was in charge of it. Because it started with Constantine in 326. He started the Roman. Uh, well, that started the Bible. He incorporated or canonized four of the four Gospels only, and call it the Roman. That's all the religion you could study then. But since then, it's gone through the hands of, through the eyes and through the thoughts of a lot of translators, and you get way back into the Mesopotamia text, way back there, which is 3400 BC, where the Sumerians were given first known written language. And you get into that and start listening or reading that and understanding it, because they're just now deciphering that stuff. And there's thousands of these clay tablets with this cuneiform text on it. And that tells you what really went on, and how you can see then how it's gotten sort of sifted through the eyes of the ones that are under control, which was the Roman Catholic Church, by the way. And that's not a secret, by the way. You can mention it. But anyway, beginning of that, you find out there was beings from the sky who came down, the powerful ones, who could manipulate matter. And this is everything that happened in the first 6 chapters of Genesis or so, where the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they created the Nephilim, the giants. And well, all that covers in a couple 100,000 years in the cuneiform text. It didn't happen in six chapters, but it got reduced down. And really, you see that, and you see how it forms in with what you've been taught. And of course, we're all taught with this thing on our shoulders here. It's called our heads. But it's called, it's what we've been conditioned with. To believe this, you don't believe that. You believe this, you don't believe that. And that's how we're all conditioned. We're all conditioned certain ways. And you got to get out of that, though. I just say anybody wanting to study this has to get out of that fixed paradigm. You got to understand there's more going on. You really want to study the cuneiform text, get into the Mesopotamian timeline, what went on back then, how it all got filtered into what we're reading nowadays, how we got conditioned. And understand that I write about this in my third book, how you have to, we have what they call, Egyptians call the third eye, the pineal gland. Ever heard of that before?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay, well, it's a little bitty about the size of a pea inside your head, right in the middle of your head. But it's a receptor. It also controls the melatonin in your body. But it depends. Well, I got a whole book on this stuff, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you all this stuff in just a few minutes. But you got to connect that. That's a receptor, according to the Egyptians, according to ancient texts. That's a receptor for what's really going on. And if you can open that up through ancients say meditation, and but that connects directly to the heart. I think the heart is the biggest form of energy in your body. In fact, it is. It sends out frequency, and everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. That's what my second book's about, Quantum Bigfoot, because I think they have learned how and to reach the frequency that can do things that we don't understand, reason, meaning, whatever. And that's there's a law behind that in quantum physics that's been written down, and Nobel Prize given in 1933 to Dr. Paul Dirac for antimatter. But I'm getting way ahead of you here, so just stop me and ask me a question.
Oh no, I'm just taking it all in, my friend. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff I keep kind of thinking about with. I mean, you said the whole idea of like the different types, and I kind of want one thing. You said you went to Nepal. I mean, did you have any like experiences or anything like? Because that's the Yeti, right? Isn't that what they call in Nepal the Yeti? Like,
right?
there are some that would be more just animalistic, while others are more humanistic. I guess is kind of
good word, good question, good thought. Yeah. If you get back into the Anunnaki, I think aliens from, I don't want to get too far out of the bush here, but aliens have been coming in for eons of time, long before Homo sapiens were made. And
where are they coming from?
Cosmos, or here, or they've been here already. Who knows? I haven't talked to one yet that I know of.
Yes,
but they are going to come out there. They will be coming out shortly, probably next year or two, and you're going to hear a lot more about it from our government, because the government, if they can't explain something, they're going to either make fun of it or hide it from you until they can explain it. That's why you don't hear much about Bigfoot from our government, even though they know about it. And where's I going with this? This is all fun, by the way. I enjoy talking about this. Uh, yeah, the different ones are caused by a couple of different factors. First of all, what genetically modified what caveman, what troglodyte, what species did that? Because advanced species can manipulate genetics of other species. We can do that now, you know. We can alternate the genetics of a person. Also, I think a lot of them, according to indigenous people too, they have crossbred with their women, and that would make some of them more human-like than others. And I think that's what the Patterson film is. I think that's a female, obviously, but I think it's a diluted down one from so many years of crossbreeding with indigenous humans. So that would create a different type of one, which I think I've been seeing more and more because they are more human-like you say. What we dealt with up there, the only thing human component they had to them was the fact they have language. I'm not sure all of them have language, and that's kind of unique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that would create different types of them.
Yeah.
You get back into the Anunnaki, into the Sumerian text, when you start looking into it, you find out all the different things that was happening for all these thousands of years, and not just 6,000 years like some churches teach. And I think churches are great for socializing, but they don't teach you much. They don't teach about spiritualization so much. They teach you about conforming so you don't go to hell or something similar to that. Just saying. Anyway, what's going to happen after we die? You can't die, number one. Who you are inside will never die. Is energy, which we all are made of at the most minute level, is energy vibrating at a frequency. Everything's energy, frequency, and vibration. That's the law of physics. And that's accepted worldwide. That's not just me saying that. That's what I've learned. If you can find the vibrational frequency of anything, you can change its matter. That's a forward of physics too. Einstein wrote that out. Dr. Dirac proved it in 1933 with a Nobel Prize. It also established physically by CERN in 2012 when the Hadron Collider set a particle off, and it went so fast it turned into energy. You can sense energy, but you can't see it unless you got special eyes. We only see within certain frequencies, so everything's frequency. Our light's frequency is 430 to 770 terahertz. That's all the frequency. All these other frequencies are out there. Some animals can see in those frequencies, but we don't. That's our average human range. We don't smell like a bear will smell. A bear can smell 20 times better than we can.
Oh, yeah.
As you know, if you've ever been upwind from, you're in trouble, maybe. It's anyway, you guys, you're hunters, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware there's things going on out there. However, they will not bother you. They might throw a rock at you or something. If they do, that just means go a different direction. They won't hit you with the rock. They've not been known to hit anybody with a rock. So anyway, I just advise people to keep their guard up because there's more going on than what they see, smell, or hear. Well, they hear within certain frequencies too.
I know I'm going mule deer hunting in the mountains this fall, so I'm like, I'll be out there in the which I'm going to New Mexico. So yeah, it's going to be not quite maybe so remote, but
well, there's nothing to fear. I mean, really, you don't fear. You've been doing this all your life. You're not afraid, and fear is your only enemy, really.
Mm-hmm.
If you have fear, you probably won't see one of these things anyway. If you do, it might be a negative one because they feed off your fear. So I'd tell you that. So don't be afraid, guys.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, awesome. Well, we're probably getting towards the end here. I will say, if you want to take a minute, Ron, can you tell us like where people can, access your books and stuff like that?
Sure.
Or if they want to contact you about stuff, you could just kind of take a couple seconds and talk a little bit about yourself and that sort of stuff.
Well, my website is ronmorehead.com, and that's morehead.com. And all my books and my CDs can be ordered off there. You can download any of them, or you can order the paperback on the books. And or I sell them at events when I speak. I'm speaking. I just got back from Louisiana. I'm heading over to Yakima here in Washington on the 24th of October. I don't know if this will be out by then or not, but
I
it's a big event.
maybe so.
Mm. And I'll have my books over there, and I autograph them there and all that. So anyway, that's what I do.
Awesome.
I like to be on programs like this because I don't have to travel.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, those commercial airlines are getting to be ridiculous.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet they are.
Trying to go
Well,
from one spot to another.
well, we've enjoyed it. I mean, I like hearing the story. I like hearing it and looking at it kind of from a hunter's perspective too, because that was I remember Caleb talked about the first time he heard kind of your story about the Sierra Sounds, and the first time I heard it, there were so many things like I was wanting to ask, kind of like with the deer, because I remember you say about the hang of the deer. I was like, well, they're not. I mean. I mean, a bear's going to go after that deer hanging in the tree
Right.
over there, just as much as it'll go after, the
That's right.
food that was left out. And it's just some of those questions. And as a hunter, I was like, it's interesting
And
because I mean, my pa would always tell me, and my dad would say, it's like when you're out hunting, you may think you're hidden and you may think you're still, but something is always watching you. And he's like, whether it's a bird in that tree, whether it's a snake over there in the bush, whether it's a cricket that just jumped up on your, pants or whatever, something's looking at you.
That's exactly right. Your dad is exactly right. So always be aware that something's watching you, but don't be afraid of it. Just respect it. Just respect it. And if I have something to say of anything, I want to say this to people that might be listening. Know who you are as a human being. We're very special on this planet. And really the most important thing we can do is respond to our issues that come up in front of us with positive attitude. If you're a victim or if you think something hurt you, well, maybe it hurt you physically, but you learn something from it. I tell my grandkids when they're in a football game, we all say, you don't lose a football game. You either win or you learn something.
Yeah.
You can't lose if you respond properly. And I tell people, even the masters taught this, respond with love and compassion with everything that happens to you. And you're going to elevate your own vibrational frequency. And that's how you get out of the third density that we're in. Because until we graduate from this, you're going to have to repeat it and learn what these issues were. And that's why I believe in multiple embodiments because of that. And I think if you didn't learn it the first time, you're going to have to learn it somewhere. So you'll come back and you'll hit these damn things again. Until you learn how to respond to it with love and compassion. Okay, there. Now go beat your buddy up.
Awesome. Well, Caleb, you got anything to close us out with here, or it's probably a good spot to end it here?
Yeah, I'll say the first time I heard the sounds, we were camping shortly after that in the mountains, and about the time my kids got quiet, I played the sounds for them and woke them up and scared them a little bit. So,
well, if you got the sounds, you're welcome. You're welcome to use them on this program if you want to. Just a couple of
awesome.
them.
Okay,
cool. Awesome.
Do you have them, or do you need me to send you something?
I think if you don't mind sending them to me, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
So
through this website or through
the email. Yeah, that would be perfect. So
I'll do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ron, for hanging out with us. And I mean, we've enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with a couple just Texas redneck boys.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Me and Caleb are just a couple of redneck theologians, right? And we really enjoyed making this episode for you guys. And now, I know you guys may have heard some stuff in this episode where you thought that was a little different, that was a little strange, or maybe a little off. And I just want to let you guys know to tune in next week. We've got a follow-up episode with Ron coming in next week where we sit down and we tell Ron what we believe, and he talks about what he believes. And we have this conversation about just kind of theology, and it's a really awesome conversation. So if you heard stuff in this episode that you thought, man, I wish they would have dug more deeply into that, or they would have expounded upon that a little bit more, we just did it in part 2 of this episode coming up next week. So now be sure to like, share, comment, all that kind of fun stuff. Tell somebody about this podcast if you really enjoyed it, and tune in next week for part 2 with Ron Morehead.
Hey, wild ones. Do you love what you've been hearing? Are deep dives into theology, Bible stories, and the Word of God? If so, we need your help. For just $6 a month, which is less than a cup of coffee these days, you can join our Patreon community. It's a simple but powerful way to support our mission of sharing the gospel with as many people as possible. And when you join, you'll get some awesome perks like early access to episodes, detailed show notes, and even biblically accurate coloring pages you won't find anywhere else, trust me. Plus, we're giving 10% of everything we receive straight to missions, so your support goes even further. So click the link below in the show notes and join us on Patreon today. Let's keep raising the wild ones together.